Hello, everyone, and welcome to Region 1 podcast. I'm your host, Region 1 President-elect Maggie Spadinger, and I'm delighted to welcome our guest, Gail Markowski. Gail, are you there?
I'm here, Maggie. Thank you.
Gail, thank you for joining us today. We'll start off by asking some questions about your career as a nurse practitioner. How did you get involved with the nurse practitioner community?
Well, I had been a nurse for several years, and I had done a lot of critical care nursing, and I enjoyed it and always read more and wanted to know more. So I wound up going back, and it's been about 23 years now since I've been a nurse practitioner. And I went back and I obtained my adult nurse practitioner, and I just kept going after that. I worked in many different positions, and I just really loved it, and tried to really immerse myself in the profession. And I had actually gotten a few of my closer friends as nurses. I talked them also into going back to school, and they became NPs also. So it's been a long road. It's been 23, almost 24 years as an NP, and I was a critical care nurse for quite a few years before that as well. I'm pretty old.
That's wonderful, Gail. Thank you. Tell us one of your most impactful cases.
I would have to say, when I think of all the patients that I've taken care of over the years, one specific patient comes to mind. And his name was Ernie. He was 94 years old, and we had started at Catholic Health. I have worked for several years in the cardiac services department in different roles. And I started the TAVR program, the transcatheter aortic valve replacement program. And it's because so many older people have severe aortic stenosis, which can really cause a lot of symptoms and decrease their quality of life. And so this way of actually replacing the valve, it's a percutaneous way. It's not open heart surgery. So I was asked to lead the program, which I did and really enjoyed it. And back then, when we started the program, this procedure was only offered to patients who were considered either inoperable or at extremely high risk for surgery. So they were allowed to go through this procedure. And we had patients in the beginning. They were very elderly or very, very sick. And one gentleman did so well with the procedure. He mentioned to me afterwards that he told his friend Ernie about getting the procedure and how much better he felt. And he said, watch out for Ernie. He's 94, but he's very active, and he's just starting to have symptoms from this. He also had aortic stenosis. So the very next day I was in the hospital, and my name was paged overhead. And Ernie didn't know my last name, so it was Gail, nurse practitioner, call the operator. And I thought, maybe I'll call just to see. And it was Ernie, and he was reaching out to me because he wanted the procedure as well. We brought him in. He went through all the pre-testing, and that was found to be a good candidate for the procedure. And he had it, and he was able to become even more active. And his daughter called me a couple of years after when he passed away, and he was 98 years old and had lived a fairly active life up until he passed. And that was just, he did so well, and it was just so heartening to see it. And he even wrote a book and sent me a copy, and I cherish that. And it was just so wonderful to see the quality of life at 94 to even improve and get so much better.
Thank you. That's really a special case, Gail. I understand why you would remember that one. What does belonging to the Nurse Practitioner Association mean for a nurse practitioner?
I think it means quite a bit, Maggie. The NPA of New York State is just such an advocacy for nurse practitioners. I think it's an excellent organization. I think every nurse practitioner should be a member of it. I am a firm believer in getting involved with different organizations. I think it makes you feel more connected. You meet incredible people. When they talk about networking, it can sound somewhat a little contrived, a little, well, I want to, see what I can get out of it. But truthfully, networking within this organization is really meeting just so many people that have so many different backgrounds in their practice. And we always learn from one another. The NP is also, it's just such an advocate for the NP profession, such practice support. I think the NPA has always worked so hard for the NP profession that it's just an important part of belonging. They also give us educational programs, and it's not just the local programs, but the conferences, the topics via Zoom meetings. We can keep ourselves involved, even though we are usually always very, very busy in our own practice. But I think it's a great organization, and if anything, it has really gotten us far in our profession, and I'm proud to be a member.
I totally agree, Gail. I am a strong supporter of the Nurse Practitioner Association as advocacy and political action committee and the benefits that we have enjoyed as a result of the Nurse Practitioner Association.
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah. I'm very involved. I have been for more than 10 years. You went back to school after graduating as a nurse practitioner. Why?
Yes, I did. I graduated initially back in 98, I think, with my adult nurse practitioner. I'd always worked in critical care medicine, and I had gotten a flyer from UB that they had started a couple years after I graduated with a postmaster's certificate for acute care nurse practitioners. And I picked up the pamphlet, I put it down. I picked it up, I put it down. A couple more times of that. And I looked into it, and I went back and I obtained my acute care NP as well. I found it beneficial in my line of work. And always, I think as most NPs are, we're always looking for more. We're always looking to learn more. And then a few years ago, I obtained my doctorate, my DNP degree. I at first didn't want it. I wasn't interested because it was not a clinical program. And I thought, really, what good is it going to do me? And do I really want to go back to school again? But I looked more and more into it because I had always wanted to teach. I thought eventually, when I was ready to retire, perhaps I would teach as a nursing faculty, as an adjunct position. So I was really trying to see if the DNP program would suit me or not. I did take it. It was on an online program from Denver, a Jesuit university. It was a great program, and I learned every step of the way. And I was just so pleased with it. And I started to apply as an adjunct, and actually a position came to me from the University of Buffalo. And I'm sitting here, and I am actually full-time faculty in the adult gerontology nurse practitioner program here, although I do maintain my clinical practice and also work as an active NP taking care of patients as well. The best of both worlds.
Well, that's great. You've accomplished a lot, Gail. What positions have you held as a nurse practitioner? You have alluded to some of that already.
I actually, I started as an NP, and we're going back, so far. And my first job as an NP was at a hospital in the preoperative testing department, where actually I got more involved in the surgical house coverage aspect, having a critical care background, because no one was really thrilled to do that position, but I was. And even going back that far, it was funny because going from an RN to an NP, I took a $2 an hour pay cut. Now that's back when. I went from there and I worked as a hospitalist for a few years, trying to see where my interest would lie. And it brought me back to cardiology. I worked for a cardiology practice. I worked for a few years in a pulmonary practice. And I got a position for the cardiac services department at Mercy Hospital in Buffalo. And I was in the cath lab, and things came up, positions came up. And I have a hard time saying no, because I'm very interested in different things. And I wound up starting their outpatient cardiac rehab program. I started the MI and CHF education program there. The TAVR program, I was director of that program for a couple of years. And as of right now, I'm on the critical care team, and I work for cardiac thoracic surgery. So you can do a huge amount as an NP, I think, and be as involved as little or as much as you want. And by far, I think the involvement just gets you to grow. And it's amazing where you wind up.
That's wonderful. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and to Gail for being the guest on our episode.
Thank you, Maggie.
You're welcome. Be sure to follow the NPA on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll see you next time on the Region 1 podcast.